Good morning! Welcome to my morning stretch and wake up workout routine. This practice is just under 30 minutes long, but will stretch and wake up your full body. This is not a high intensity workout, but it combines moves inspired by yoga with moves I used to use every day as a competitive gymnast in conditioning and stretching. If you are a retired gymnast like me, then this workout is great to keep your flexibility and strength. Just so you know, I'm not a certified fitness instructor. This video just documents what works best for my own body, so please listen to your own body if you do recreate this workout and you want to follow along to this video. Okay, let's get started. Start with a nice long stretch up towards the sky, then reach back slightly, tilting your head back slightly, and swan dive down to a pike. Walk your hands out to a plank and hold that plank for a few breaths. Next, chaturanga or low push-up. Push to up dog, look up to the sky, take a breath. Feel your back stretching. Tuck your toes under and press into downward dog. Let's take a few breaths here. Think about pushing your tushy up into the sky, pushing back into your legs. Feel a good stretch in your hamstrings. And back to a plank, chaturanga, up dog. Push back into a downward dog. Just listen to your body. If you feel like you need to sit there longer, you can. Next, bring your right foot forward. Then press your knee to the floor in a lunge pose. And work on pressing your left hip forward to get a nice stretch in your hips. Try to keep your hips facing forward and not turning in either direction. Lift your left arm up, which will force your leg to push a little farther in and get a bigger stretch. Straighten your front leg, point your toe, or flex your foot, either one, and bring your chest down towards your knee. Try to keep your hips forward for this. You're going to get a really good hamstring stretch under your right leg. Then bend that right knee, go back into your lunge, and pull your left foot up, and that will give you a quad stretch on your left leg. I'm just reaching back up into the sky. My body's really tight from traveling a lot and not stretching every day. Going back into up dog. Tucking the toes under and into downward dog. Feeling the stretch get a little bit more open. Bringing my left leg forward now. First just stretching that hip and then putting the knee down into a lunge. Trying to keep my hips facing forward. Lifting my right arm this time, which is pushing that hip even farther forward and getting a deeper stretch. My balance is a little off still, as you can see. Next, we straighten that left leg and bring our nose to our knee, really stretching out that left hamstring. Taking a breath here, feeling the stretch. Back into our lunge, feeling that push in the hips, trying to get my balance again. Moving back into a straight leg, nose to your knee, just to keep working both of those muscles for a stretch, and then pulling up my foot on my back leg to get that quad stretch on the right leg. Letting go of my foot, and back to a tabletop for a second, down to chaturanga, up dog. Taking a breath here, and pushing back into downward dog. Taking a breath. Now hop your feet to your hands. Bring your hands up above your head. Look up to the sky and reach back slightly for a little back stretch, neck stretch. Swan dive down to a pike. Now you can do a ragdoll pose where you slightly open your feet a little bit, about hips width distance apart, and just let your arms hang just to stretch out the backs of your hamstrings again. Reach back up to the sky. Swan dive down to a pike. Feel that stretch. Now do a halfway, forget what this one's called, halfway up pose and come back down. Nice flat back when you come up halfway. Feeling that stretch in my hamstrings. And folding, going back into a plank. Now I'm doing 10 push-ups to work out my arms and wake them up. If you would like to modify this pose, you could put your knees down and do your push-ups from your knees. That'll make it a little easier. Or you could widen your arms and that'll work your chest a little more. Coming back into a plank, chaturanga, upward dog, looking up to the sky, feeling my blood flow now that I did some push-ups. I'm waking up some more. And down into a child's pose. And just taking a few breaths here. Letting my arms and my wrists stretch out a little bit, doing some wrist rolls here. Come to a tabletop and back to a downward dog. Hopping my feet to my hands, reaching up to the sky. Doing an arm circle to a chair pose. I'm just holding this chair pose for a few breaths, trying to keep the weight of my feet closer to my heels and not on my toes. Kind of tucking my tushy under, reaching my arms up to the sky. Thinking about my breath, circling my arms up and reaching back up to the sky. Reaching a little farther with my back stretch this time. Back down to a pike. Halfway up and back down to a pike. Feet back, plank, chaturanga, upward dog. Tuck those toes under and back to downward dog. Take a breath here. Feel that stretch. Starting to warm up some more. Now we turn to one side, putting all of our weight on our right arm and resting one foot on top of the other, reaching up to the sky. And the wind is blowing me a little bit here, and I'm also having trouble with my balance because it's been a while since I worked out, so I'm looking a little shaky, so maybe that makes you guys feel a little better about yourselves. Reaching back up to the sky, switched over to my left arm now. Just holding that pose and breathing, looking up to the sky, up towards my hand. Bringing it back down to a plank, to a tabletop, and to child's pose. Again, rolling out those shoulders just a little bit, rolling out the wrists a little bit, reaching my arms behind me to open up the chest, and just shaking my arms out a little. Now I'm standing up and doing just like some mini squats, not going all the way down or all the way up, starting to warm up those legs, then holding that pose in a squat, a little lower than I usually go for chair pose, keeping my arms forward to help hold my balance. And now I'm doing something that's working my glutes, the sides of my glutes. You lift one leg and shoot it out to the side, lift the other leg, shoot it out to the back and the side. And the trick here is to not really use your momentum to get this going, but to use just your muscles. So you want to work slowly enough that you can lift that leg, put it behind the other leg, bring it back down. And every time you shift your weight, you're using your glutes. This is a little tricky if your balance isn't the best, so just work on it and it'll improve. Next, we're standing back up and we're just gonna do 15 squats all the way up, all the way down. Every time you bring yourself back to a standing position, you want to squeeze those glutes and tuck them under into your tummy, like tuck them forward, squeeze them, and that will help work your glutes as well. My feet are about shoulder width apart here. I stick my arms out as I go down to help with my balance. And do these at your own pace. Next, I'm doing some mountain climbers. I'm losing my balance a little bit. This is the only high intensity part of this whole workout. You don't have to jump in between these. If you would like to step in between them, that could be less intense. I just do 10 of those. Reach back up to the sky and swan dive down to a pike. Bring my feet back to a plank. Taking a breather. Chaturanga, up dog. I'm really starting to warm up now. Tuck those toes under into a downward dog. Taking a breather, feeling that stretch. Bringing one foot forward to a crescent lunge. So my back left foot is facing forward. My hips are both forward. Once I get that pose, I start to dip down with my center, stretching out those hips, but keeping my hips forward. I don't want to open up my left hip because that will throw off my balance. And now we open the left hip and we switch the back foot to face towards the ocean in this scenario. We keep our arms out, and this is Warrior 2 pose. You want to keep pushing deeper into that lunge. You can look out over your hand in the front of you, and then you can put your right elbow on your right leg and reach over with your other arm, pushing deeper into the lunge. And if you want to, you could lift both arms out. It uses the legs even more. Then come down into your lunge. Back down to that front leg stretch, keeping the front leg straight. And at this point, my body's warmed up enough and I'm stretched out enough to go into a split. In my split, I'm trying to keep my hips facing forward. I'm trying not to open that back left hip, trying to keep everything square. Reaching down to the front of my leg to get a deeper hamstring stretch. And then the farther back I try to reach, I'll get more of a hip stretch. Now I tuck the right leg under. And I forget what this one is called too, but this pose is great for stretching out your glutes. You can just lay right down on your bent over front leg and it'll stretch out that glute. Next, I'm pushing back into a child's pose. And then I put my left leg in front for my crescent lunge. This one is a little tricky for me with balance too. Keeping those hips forward, my back right foot is facing forward, and I'm kind of on the ball of my foot there. Taking a breath, pushing deeper into the lunge, stretching my hips. Opening into Warrior 2. Now my hips are open, facing the camera here. My back foot is facing the camera as well. My front foot is still facing off towards the sun. Pushing deeper into that stretch, reaching out with both arms, looking out over my front hand. And then putting my left elbow onto my left leg and folding over with my right arm, pushing deeper into that stretch, working my legs, and then pick up my left elbow here and Get more of a stretch and a bit of a workout there. Using the muscles to hold myself up. Going back into a lunge. Straightening my front leg, nose to knee. Now pushing into my left leg split. After I get that stretch, I was really feeling that stretch there. Left leg split. Again, trying to keep my hips square and facing forward, not opening that right hip at all. Just really feeling that stretch. You can kind of wiggle around a little bit to see what part feels best for you, like what's hurting and what's not hurting. Just listen to your body, and then fold over to the front leg. Get that hamstring stretch. Again, tuck that right knee and leg under, and I'll give you a glute stretch. Fold over. Take a few breaths. Switching to a Indian pose, rolling my neck, starting to warm up my neck muscles a little more, just stretch them out. Make a few circles to the left, a few circles to the right, and reach over to one side, get a nice stretch on the side of your body. Reach to the other side, come back to center, and open your legs to a straddle. Reach down to one side in your straddle. You could flex your feet or point your feet or leave them relaxed here. This is another good side of the body stretch. Also stretches out your shoulders, like the part right under your shoulders on your back. And after you did your left and right side, go down to the center. Take a few breaths here. These sweatpants are not flattering, but they're very comfortable. And then roll out your ankles a little bit. Now we're going to do some abs. So hold a hollow hold like this. Take a couple breaths there. Find a good spot for your body to get balance. And now we're going to do 10 V-ups. And I'm struggling with my balance here, but you want your arms and your feet to come up, make that V, and then come back to a hollow hold. If these are too tricky for you and your hip flexors aren't strong enough or your abs aren't strong enough, then you could do tuck-ups where your legs are bent. And you don't have to come up quite as high. After your V-ups, come back to an Indian pose. And we're going to flip over to a down dog. And back to up dog, just stretching out the abs a little bit. And child's pose. Come up to sitting on your knees. Roll out your wrists again if you need to. Take a breath. Now we're going to do back stretches. So these are superwoman rockers, I guess I call them. And you want to be the opposite of a hollow hold. You want to be in an arch hold. And then you're going to rock back and forth using your back muscles and your glutes and everything on the back side of your legs. You don't want to use your arms too much. You want to work focusing on using those leg muscles and back muscles. And we're going to shoot for 20 of these, but if you can't get to 20, that's okay. The biggest thing there is to really squeeze your glutes and your legs together while you're doing that rock. Now we're heading down to child's pose, taking a few breaths. Come back up to sitting on your knees. We're coming back into a straddle now for some hip flexor workouts. So what you're going to do is what I just kind of showed you, except you're going to do it a little more quickly. So you're going to rock those legs up and down. You're leaning back slightly, but not too much. You don't want it to be easy. The farther you lean back, the easier this is, but that's working the muscle less. So you want to try to keep your balance centered and not really push off your hands too much. Your hands are just there for balance, and you're just rocking your legs up and down, and that's really going to strengthen your hip flexors. Try to do about 15 of those if you can. Now I'm flipping over onto my back just to stretch out my hips a little bit. Thinking about the next workout. Getting a little bit of a calf stretch here, just pushing that calf, my foot down into the ground. Next, go into a tabletop position, and you want to do straight leg kickbacks here, up and down. So you're going to use your right leg first, just kicking it up and down about 15 times. Then switching to your left leg. Looks like I did 11. Then you're going to bend your knee, and I think these used to be called pee dogs because you look like a dog peeing, and you just keep your knee bent, lift that right hip up, and this is going to be a good glute and side of the leg workout here. Do about 10 to 15 of these. Switch to your left side. The slower you do these, the more you work that muscle, and the faster you do these, you're not using the muscle quite as much because you're using a little bit of your momentum. So I start to slow down at the end there. I can see that I'm feeling the workout more. Next, go into a child's pose. Come back to sitting on your knees. Roll out your wrists a little if they're feeling tight. Take a breath. Now we're going to do some tricep dips. So you can start by pushing your tushy up into the sky. It's like a reverse tabletop, like a crab walk type pose. And you're just going to bend your arms until your tushy basically touches the ground. If you want to make this even more challenging, you can straighten your legs out to the front and just keep working on pushing your hips up to the sky, tightening your glutes, and then squeezing while you push down with your arms. Hold that pose for a second. Take a breath. Stretch out those arms. This is a tricep stretch. So you just bend one arm back behind your head and push down with the other one, push down on the elbow. My wrists have gotten more weak since I quit gymnastics, so I really need to stretch out my wrists every time I do this. This is an oblique stretch, or oblique workout. So you stay in a plank, and you bring your knee out to the side, and then you turn your knee and tuck it under you. Try to do about 5 on each side. Then we go to upward dog. Take a breath. Push back into down dog. And your body should be feeling pretty warm at this point. Should be much more flexible than you were when you first did your down dog. Do a chaturanga, back to up dog. Tuck those feet under, back to down dog. Keep thinking about stretching those hamstrings and pushing your tushy up to the sky. Now you're going to lift your left leg, up to the sky, get a little extra stretch. Chaturanga, up dog, tuck the toes, and back to down dog. Feel that stretch. Now we're going to push the right foot up to the sky. Just have my foot relaxed, it's not pointed or flexed here. I'm focusing more on the stretch in my hips and the hamstrings. Come back to a seated pose on your knees, rolling out my wrists again. Now I'm just tucking my toes under, staying on my toes, and I forget the name for this stretch, but you turn your upper body to the right, so your left elbow is touching your right knee. Feel a stretch, twist to the other side, feel a stretch, take a breath, and then come back to center. Now I have my legs in a straddle, and I piked down. Now I'm reaching to one side and stretching to my right side there. Moving over to the left side, and then coming down to center. Take that weight off of your hands. Just let your upper body kind of rest there. You can shake your head no, shake your head yes. Feel that neck, just releasing all that pressure. And then bend your knees and roll up to standing. Put your arms behind your back, lock them together, and then fold over, opening up that chest. Bring your arms back up, reach for the sky. Here we're going to do a back bend from standing. If you're uncomfortable doing a back bend from standing, you can start on the ground by laying flat on your back, reaching your hands behind your head so your palms are facing down on the ground, feet are bent, and then push up into a back bend. This takes a lot of practice to work up into. Eventually you can try to get your legs straight in the back bend and keep pushing your shoulders closer to your head, like farther to the left side. Just keep opening up those shoulders. Now I'm just rocking out my back after I did a back bend. It's been like a month since I did a back bend. My body is like, what just happened? Really rolling out those wrists again, getting one more neck roll in, rolling out my ankles. Doing a pike stretch one more time. And just shaking out the arms. Here we're doing a quad stretch, so you just want to bend your right leg back, catch it with your hands, and just hold that pose there to get that good quad stretch. Switching to the left side. And I forget the name of this pose as well, but you bend your right leg, you balance on your left foot, you bring your right leg with your foot onto your left knee, and you have like a diamond shape or a triangle shape with your leg, and it balances, and you want to come into a seated pose. You can switch to the left side, get that good stretch there. Doing a little hip roll here just to keep working that hip flexor and stretch it out some more. And that's it, guys. Here's me trying to say goodbye by doing a one-arm handstand. I hope you guys enjoyed this morning wake up, stretch, and workout routine. This is one of my favorite things to do just to get my body awake and stretched out. I also like to stretch at night before I go to bed without the workout part, just to kind of get my mind ready for sleep. So hope you guys have a great day. Keep up the good work with your workouts, and I'll catch you next time.